How are you guys doing? Today is Friday, February 25th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile on Gianluigi Donnarumma. The elite Italian goalkeeper for Paris Saint-Germain turns 23 today, and my intention with this episode is, of course, to focus on how Gianluigi Donnarumma has established himself as one of the best goalkeepers in the game, to establish himself as one of the elite soccer players in a sport where you have hundreds of thousands of people that are vying for a very finite amount of spots among the team's handful of top teams in the world. I'm going to zoom in and look at how game in, game out he was able to impact his team's performance. And of course, I'm going to zoom out and look at how he's been able to impact football as a whole, as he is just now turning 23 and he's already been recognized as the best player in a continental tournament, and not just any continent, the most competitive continent, the most competitive continent when it comes to continental play, that being Europe, considering he has the majority of his career in front of him, especially when the road in front of him entails him being the number one goalie at a top team in the world. I think that he's really just getting started, and he's already done so much. Turning 23 today, he stands about 6'5", which of course helps with his ability to save a lot of shots. He's incredibly confident along with his quick reflexes, and considering he's been the starting goalie at AC Milan since he was a teenager, considering he's only 23, he's actually not that inexperienced at all. He's one of the more experienced Italian goalies in the sport, despite being incredibly young by a lot of people's standards and being the age of a lot of people that are seniors in college right now. But alas, with that said, I'm going to get into what makes Gianluigi Donnarumma one of the best goalies in the world already right now, and on his way to being definitely a contender for the best goalie in the world in his heyday. So after, of course, being born in 1999, being my age, he would find himself moving through youth clubs in Italy before he ended up on the AC Milan youth team. AC Milan would be the team that would go on to promote him. He'll be promoted in his age 16 season, in the 2015-16 season for the very first time. As also in the 2015-16 season, he would get called up, or right after that year, he would get called up to play for Italy. But he would get called up to play for Italy after his very first season, starting for an AC Milan team that finished 7th in the Serie A. They would, however, go on to finish as runners-up in the Italian Coppa. In that first Serie A season, in the 30 matchups he played, he only allowed 27 goals, and he had 11 clean sheets. Very impressive for a teenager to do. And he would go on to play one Coppa Italia matchup where he did not allow a goal. AC Milan would not end up with a trophy that season, but people would start to recognize Gigi for being one of the better goalies in Italy. Following his very first season, he would go on to return to AC Milan, one of the most storied programs in all of Italy, for his second full season as a starter in his age 17 season. He would go on to start all 38 of the matchups he played for an AC Milan team that would finish 6th in the Serie A. As they did go on to win the Supercoppa Italiana that year, that was the only trophy that he was able to pick up with AC Milan in his years there. They ended up beating Juventus on penalty kicks, as he was the goalie that ended up winning it for them, as AC Milan would take home a very big trophy. First time they'd won Supercoppa Italiana, or a trophy for that matter, since 2012. So of course that would be a very big appearance for them, as they still finished 6th in the Serie A, what they had been doing the year before. In the midst of this season, Gianluigi Donnarumma would go on to represent Italy. He was the youngest goalkeeper to ever appear for Italy in September, as he was 17 and a half years old. And just to get a sense, this was right before he won the Super Cup, and while he was doing so as a teenager starter for AC Milan. So Italy got a chance to see that this kid was definitely on his way, as of course he was sitting behind Gigi Buffon, the original goalie for Italy, as this was the beginning of him starting to learn and grow under one of the greatest goalies to ever play the game. Following his second full season at Milan, Gianluigi Donnarumma, or I guess looking at his second season within statistically, he would go on to allow 40 goals in those 38 games, as he had 12 clean sheets, just as many clean sheets as he had at least the year before. Or he at least had a double-digit amount of clean sheets, a streak that he was able to maintain all through Milan. But this would transition into his third season with AC Milan. His age 18 season in 2017-2018 would see him start all 38 of the matchups he played in a season where Milan would finish 6th in the Italian league yet again. They would finish runners-up in the Italian league, or in the Italian Cup. And for that season, they would go on to finish in the round of 16 in Europa League, as they actually got a chance to compete at a continental title. In the round of 16, they would end up losing to Arsenal, who ended up losing to Atletico Madrid in the semifinals, as Atletico Madrid went on to beat Marseille in Europa League finals that year. 2017-2018 would see Gianluigi Donnarumma allow more goals than games played, as he allowed 42 goals in the 38 Serie A games played. He would finish with 12 clean sheets, which as a teenager is still very tough to do, to get a double-digit amount of clean sheets over that year. In the Europa League run he would allow 8 goals in the 11 matches he played, as he had 6 Europa League clean sheets, as he was starting to show his prowess on the continental scale. All of this still while being a teenager. He would allow 4 goals in the 4 Coppa Italia matchups he played, as he allowed all 4 of the goals he's allowed in one matchup, as he had 3 clean sheets. Following that 2017-2018 season, I imagine if Italy would have gone to the World Cup, he would have competed. Alas, Italy hasn't competed at a World Cup since 2014. But this would transition into Gigi's 4th full season with the AC Milan squad. And in his 4th season as a full-time starter in his age 19 season, which makes him a seasoned veteran by the time he turns 20. He would start all 36 of the matchups he played in a season where AC Milan would finish 5th in the Serie A, as they would also finish as runners-up in the Supercoppa Italiana. This year they ended up losing to Juventus when Juventus ended up getting Ronaldo. They would also end up losing in group stage, as that would be how their continental tournament season would end. In his 3rd season, Donnarumma would go on to allow 28 goals in the 36 matchups he played, as this would be the best ratio he would have on the year. He would go on to finish with 11 clean sheets on the year, as well as AC Milan would have their best finish while he was there, at least up until that point. He would also go on to play a couple games for Italy, as he was starting to earn a couple more starts, as Gigi Buffon was starting to get a little bit older. This would transition into Gigi Donnarumma's 5th full season with AC Milan in 2019-20, and a season that had its end pushed back, of course, due to COVID. In his 5th full season as Milan's starting goalie, he would start all 36 of the matchups he played. In a season where Milan would finish 6th, this would be, of course, the 3rd time in a 4-year stretch they would finish 6th, and that'll be the 5th year in a row they finished between 5th and 7th in Italy. They would also finish in the semifinals of the Italian Cup that year, especially within the Bundesliga, or within the Serie A. He would allow 40 goals in the 36 matchups he played, as he would allow more goals than games played. Not one of his better seasons, but of course AC Milan's defense had a really tough year. He would also have 12 clean sheets, as this would be yet another season at AC Milan, where as a starter for the 5th year in a row, he would finish with a double-digit amount of clean sheets, which is a very tough constant to maintain, especially in one of the toughest leagues in Italy, especially while he was a teenager through most of that time. And then, however, at the end of that season, he would go into his 6th and final season with AC Milan in his age 21 season in 2020-21. He would go on to start all 37 of the matchups he played in a season where AC Milan would go on to finish with the 2nd best record in the Serie A, as they finished right below Inter this most recent season. They finished with the 2nd best record in all of Italy and in all of Milan. This is when Zlatan was their leading scorer. In continental play, they would would end up losing in the Europa League round of 16. The team that would end up knocking who would end up knocking them out this year would end up being Manchester United. Manchester United would end up getting knocked out by Villarreal in the final off of penalties, just for reference. But in this most recent season with AC Milan, he would go on to allow 38 goals in the 37 matchups he played, as he finished with 14 clean sheets, the most Serie A clean sheets he would have. In their Europa League run, he would allow 14 goals in the 11 matchups he played, as he had a clean sheet in that matchup as well. Following that season, he would be representing Italy as Italy's starting goalie in the 2021 Euros, which were supposed to be played a year earlier, but were delayed because of COVID. Coming in, he was coming in as AC Milan's starting goalie, and he was looking for a place to play. He hadn't officially picked a team to play, but it would be the Euros in 2021, which would shift how a lot of people look at him. He would go on to be named the player of the tournament, as he helped Italy win the Euros in 2020. In the group stage, Italy would they would beat Turkey, Switzerland, and Wales off of all clean sheets. They beat Turkey 3-0, Switzerland 3-0, and they beat Wales 1-0. Italy would end up beating Austria 2-1 in the round of 16, as this game ended up going into extra time. They would end up beating Belgium 2-1 in the quarterfinals to advance to the semis. In the semifinals, they would end up making it past Spain as they beat Spain in penalty kicks, and then they would end up beating England in penalty kicks. And because Donnarumma would survive both penalty kick rounds, Donnarumma would, of course, be named the player of the tournament, not to mention that he also had 3 clean sheets in the group stage matchups. And Italy would go on to, of course, win Europa League for the first time since 1968, which was the very first time that Italy would enter the tournament. So this would be a very historic win for Italy, and of course a very historic title win and a very historic trophy and nomination for Gianluigi Donnarumma. And like I said, Italy is fresh off of that continental win, as they are the reigning champs of Euros. This happened literally last summer, within this last year, since his last birthday, and he even had a profile last year. But following his Euros performance, he officially would get signed by PSG, who was looking for a replacement for Keylor Navas, as he would officially get picked up to play for PSG on a 5-year deal. As so far, he has started 10 matchups for a PSG squad that is sitting at the very top of Ligue 1 at the moment. They sit 13 points ahead of second place Marseille, as he has been sharing games with Keylor Navas. In the 10 matchups he's played for PSG in Ligue 1, he's only allowed 7 goals in those 10 matches, as he has 4 clean sheets. Not to mention he's played a couple of Coupe de France games, as France is still, as Italy is still right now trying to compete to make it right back into the World Cup. Not to mention that he's also played 4 Champions League games, as he's allowed 2 goals and had 2 clean sheets. So far as PSG is currently sitting alive in the round of 16 at Champions League at the moment. They are currently holding a 1-0 aggregate lead over Real Madrid after winning at home. I believe Donnarumma may possibly be the starting goalie for PSG this upcoming match. But once Keylor Navas is no longer at PSG, it looks as though Donnarumma is going to take over as the number 1 slot, as he still has 4 more years under his PSG contract, playing for the champions of France after he helped Italy become the champions of Europe. But that's really all I have to really say about him, as he's only 23 and he still has an entire career to build. It's one of the best things about talking about players that are incredibly young, especially as he is like virtually my age. But I do want to take this time to thank the Pro Soccer Reference websites, the Footy Stats, Football Reference, and the Wikipedia articles that I needed in order for this episode. If you ever get a chance to watch Gigi Donnarumma, I don't know what number he's wearing for Italy, but he's the starting goalie for Italy. For right now, he is the second string goalie for Paris Saint-Germain. I imagine he's asserting his way to being the starting goalie for them as well. Right now, he's wearing number 50 for PSG. But with that said, if you ever get a chance, please watch him. I hope all is well. Once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Saturday, February 26th, 2021. And hopefully by this time next year, I'll have a lot more to talk about as Gianluigi Donnarumma turns 24 this time next year. And I imagine by this time next year, he's still going to be regarded as one of the world's best, as I don't even think that he's at his own best. With that said, thanks for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode. Thanks for listening, and thanks for listening to this piece. And if you ever get a chance to watch Serie A's reigning goalkeeper of the year, check out Gianluigi Donnarumma. Peace out.